fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got tracks and he's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up to
Oh my God! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get full.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God!
God, what?
This is the world's premier online racing simulation. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat from your home computer with the most realistic online motorsports experience you'll find anywhere. Race virtually in the world's biggest events with officially licensed series, cars, and tracks. From the high banks of Daytona to the blistering speeds of Indianapolis, the dirt of Eldora to the world's most legendary road courses. It's all here, and with more than 180,000 people just like you already driving, you'll always have someone to race. Ready to get behind the wheel? Sign up at iRacing.com to get started.
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV. It's time for our tri-weekly venture into the Southern Cross Esports Championship Series presented by V8 Drive Day Perth. Round 3 was supposed to be at Oran Park, but thanks to a late schedule change, we are racing at Okayama for the third round of the championship, the scene of quite some exciting racing during the summer series earlier in the year. And I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how the drivers tackle it this time, especially with some new faces in the field. To bring it to you all live here on SimSpeed TV is myself, Reese Gardner, along with Dan Yeaman, alongside me in the commentary box, and Jay Kennedy on production behind the scenes. Well, Dan, last time you were in the box with me for Southern Cross, it was at the dramatic final round of the summer series at Bathurst. Now we go to Japan for what should be a good night of racing.
Yes, certainly there. Thank you, Reese, for the introduction, and thank you to everyone joining us here this evening for the live stream. And yeah, thinking back to that Bathurst race at the end of the summer series, was certainly not much of a better trial by fire when it comes to joining a series on the commentary side of things. But yeah, after unfortunately missing out on the first 2 rounds of this winter championship season, good to be back here to cover things for you this evening. And I think now, well, better time, Reese, have a look here at the circuit, Okayama International Circuit, in the full configuration as it currently stands. Just over 3.7 kilometers in length and 11 corners to negotiate around this circuit. A bunch of very famous names, at least when it comes to the Formula One space, at least. Particularly say turn 2 there, the Williams corner. That's the one in particular. Very interesting names here. Also in particular there, turn 11, the last corner, and turn 1, the first corner, do stand out a little bit amongst all the famous names here. Although then again, you also have turn 5 as the hairpin, just to mix things up a little bit as well, Reese.
Yeah, indeed. Those driver names such as Piper, Hobbs and Redman, they come from the names of drivers that took part in a historic race to mark the opening of the circuit in the early 1990s. And of course, the Moss S down there, very difficult section. It's flat out. It's not much of a problem for you if you're on your own, but if you have a driver trying to go side by side with you, it's certainly a place where you stand to gain or lose a lot. And another thing that we're going to have to talk about is the pit entry here at Okayama as well. A lot of drivers fell victim to it last time we were here, and I'm sure that the majority of the field will have learned from it, because the pit entry here at Okayama, very misleading. But we'll take a look at the championship standings here. Tyson Broad leading the championship from Gianni Lutzu by 40 points. That's a pretty good gap for Broad to have here in the opening rounds of the season. He's had some very consistent race results, but Gianni Lutzu with a penalty at Barcelona last round for passing cars before the control line on the race start really put him back in terms of the championship. He's under a bit of threat from Rob Chrisdale. Have a look at the gap between him and Trevor Hearn.
There's absolutely nothing in it there for third place in the championship standings. And then same, likewise, Reese there, the gap between fifth with Anthony Jewell there, only 4 points ahead of Brodie Watts, and then another 3 points ahead of Cameron Edwards. And then you can look just back to 8, 9, 10, a total of just 12 points separating those 3 drivers. So even though it's broken up a little bit there in terms of our top 10 battle packs, certainly plenty of action to keep our eyes on up and down the field, I dare suggest. Well, if you're not familiar with the Southern Cross Esports Championship Series, here's your race format as always for this evening. 20-minute opening race and then a 40-minute second race with the top 12 results inverted after the first one, and a compulsory pit stop for 4 tyres. It must be taken at least 5 minutes after the race start and before 35 minutes of the race has been concluded. We're currently in the middle of our 15-minute open qualifying session, so it's time to have a look at those times as they're coming in right now.
Indeed, it's Tyson Broad on provisional pole by 2/10 from Rob Crisdale. Gianni Lutzu only shadowing Crisdale by a few hundredths, and we're looking at Lutzu at the moment as he makes his way around Mike Knight corner and then into last corner. This is a very difficult acceleration zone to get right. You can take all of that curb on the exit, but the car can get very unstable out of there. The series is, of course, fixed setup in the Porsche 911 RSR. 1 minute 26.1 there for Gianni Lutzu. That's a bit off the times that he set before, so he'll be hoping for a little bit more success later on. Car 46, of course, Cameron Edwards in a very good position in the championship at the moment. And Cam is one of the drivers that we might get an opportunity to talk to at some point during the broadcast, as well as Ray Oliver, who's just behind him there in his brand new livery there. Fantastic stuff there for Ray Oliver. Not only changing his race number to 224, but he's also got a new sponsor in the form of Automotive Cleaning Supplies. And I've got to say, that is a very clean paint on that car based on a classic Porsche livery.
Certainly
and there
is,
is the
and
pit exit, pit entry, sorry. My apologies, Dan. Just demonstrating the pit entry there at Okayama. The yellow cones are what denotes the start of the pit speed limit. It is not the 40km/h speed limit sign before it. So I would say, Dan, we've got to keep an eye out for that.
Well, supposedly, producer Jay Kennedy has put everyone on watch over in the series Discord. It's one of the trucks, I have to say, Reese. It's very unusual to have. It obviously is part of the real-world scan that this circuit was based on, having the sign and speed limits there, as we just watched there. Barry Punter in the 440 entry 4V race. Unfortunately, loses it there at last corner and can't straighten the car out onto the front straight there, so that time is going to be a wash. And we'll have to wait and see if he can get the car fixed up later on. But next to have a look at here is Rob Crisdale, who looking was fastest in practice, currently 4/10 off what he did there in that session. So not quite want to fly this time by either here, Reece. So hopefully setting up for another one here to get a run going to try and close that gap to our provisional pole sitter. Not much in it, but here's that pit entry now as we jump on board with one of our guys as they're coming down the lane. So in early there, in fact, yeah, my friend Esper, don't stop there at the 60 sign. Push on through and hit the limiter there. That's a little slow on entry. Yes, it was under speed there. So let's do it now in qualifying and understand the difference. But then I'll hopefully work into it there as we see another car down onto the lane. Anthony Connors in the 81 machine.
Indeed, Connors down in 15th at the moment on a 1 minute 26.7, just a few hundredths ahead of Franz Esterbauer, who we were riding on board with just before. Kyle Ridley in the number 27. He's currently in 7th for the Down Under eSports team. It doesn't look like that's going to be a particularly fast lap. I think that might actually be an outlap there for Ridley. So he'll be starting another one now, going through that very challenging first couple of turns. Looks like Tyson Broad, a championship leader, backing off there to get as good a run as possible onto the front stretch to try and increase the margin that he has over the rest of the field. Let's ride on board with him around this lap. Got a car exiting the pits just ahead of him. You can carry a lot of speed through turns 1 and 2. Turn 1's a bit faster than it looks. Turn 2, slightly off camber. You've got to nail the turn in and get on the power earlier than you think. Then we go through the Moss S. It's just a little flick to the left, right, and then left again. But as I said, side by side is not a good idea. Going through Hobbs now. And you can really pick up the throttle early out of there as the corner opens up and you're onto the long back stretch. Coming up to the hairpin, this is going to be one of the prime overtaking opportunities around the lap. A very heavy braking zone alongside the marshal's post into a cambered hairpin, which you can definitely run side by side through. In fact, if anything, sometimes the outside line is the preferred one there. And then down through Revolver into the left-hander at the bottom of the hill. Another difficult corner to get right. Very difficult to pick the line through there. It is very blind. and then through this sequence of double hairpins to end the lap. This is another place where you can throw one up the inside if you've got it all together, but you've got to nail the throttle for a good run through Mike Knight corner and into last corner. It's just a tap of the brakes in the Porsche 911 RSR, and then another tap of the brakes down into the final turn here. So that's the end of the lap for Tyson Broad. Let's see if he can improve now on that 25.2. Oh, unfortunately, that is a 4.16, and that is the exact same time that Rob Crisdale set.
Yeah, not quite there for Tyson at the moment, but obviously being provisional P1's not so bad, and he looks like he's currently pushing on to make that a second flying lap attempt, so I'll have to cut him back to him in a little while and see how he's doing. Meanwhile, number 50, Peter Bianucci, currently down in position number 15 on a 126.70. Unfortunately, that was another outlap for him there, it seems. So he'll be looking to get one going now. But I'll have to check back in with him another time. Ben Breyer, number 58 machine, a little bit further back behind in 18th place, a 126.895 for him. Unfortunately, he's down the pit lane to reset one last time. So we'll take another look at one of the other drivers staying out on track here. Brody Watts is currently 8th place on 125.735, his personal best. You can see there, last lap was close. This one, though, a little bit further back behind. So punching a group of times there, actually, as it turns out, in his qualifying run. That's 3 times, all within about a tenth of a second race. So good consistency from the 949 entry there. But he'll need to find a little bit more as we switch back to Cameron Edwards. And that was a little wide. That might be a slowdown there off the final turn.
Yeah, and off track at the very least. 26.4 is the time, and it doesn't look like it counted for him. Dean Hunt and Brandon Levin now coming across the line. Let's see what Brandon can do here. Down the order just a little bit, 25.6, and there we go. That's more like it for Brandon Levin, up to P6 from about 11th place. Not too bad of a performance at all. Part of the Racecraft Simulations team, Alex Newton in car 13. He's down in 12th at the moment. Nathaniel Coburn sets a time and puts himself up to P15. Looks like that was an outlap for Alex Newton. So we'll see if he can improve on his current time there. So Brody Watts still in the slipstream of his 949 teammate, and that is Trevor Hearn, I believe, just up ahead of him in the 949 numbered car. Gets out of the way of Brody Watts as he comes around to the end of the lap. You will notice that it's the number 2 on Brody Watts' car because he was second place in the championship during the summer series. So we'll be hoping to get some good results and carry that forward. 25.7 for Brody Watts, and that is unfortunately just a few hundredths slower than his fastest lap. It seems that drivers are having a bit of trouble finding improvement here at the end of the qualifying session, which is interesting considering that the track temperature is only 29 degrees Celsius. I think that's well within the range for a nice fast track.
Yeah, I would say so indeed. Reese, we watch these guys continue across the line. Brandon Levin coming across now and does improve again to a 25.555.
That's good.
There, so moves up to P4. He's got just enough time here for one more qualifying run if he keeps the boot in it as our provisional pole sitter. Tyson Broad, 25.449 for him there. So no improvement again, but again, just enough time left to get across the line. Heat format to get this all into one service. So if you're not familiar with it here on iRacing, that means qualifying will cut straight away at 0 seconds. So you need to be on a lap before you are going to run out of time to complete it. So that means now here, Gianni Luzzu, he is currently on his final attempt to get a lap on the board here. Round Hobbs hairpin here, part of that switchback with Redmond. And then, as you said, race up into Mike Knight corner. Make sure you get the run right so you can set up last corner. You can see all the way out to the white line there and then bring it back in. Get the apex curb, get the exit curb here. Don't get that gravel, of course, and then stay off the grass. Good run out of the final turn there for Lutsu. 2 personal bests this lap as well, Reese. So he comes to the final sector and the line. 25.580. Unfortunately, that's not going to be an improvement. He will stay provisional P3, though, for now.
Lutsu might be a little disappointed with that, but certainly a good racer. He might be able to work his way forward in the race. Direct Industries, Clint Harvey across the line, 26.4. And it looks like that is a slight improvement for him, but he remains P13 as Levin comes into the pits. Perth Fork Trucks, Franz Estebauer, meanwhile, rounding the last couple of corners in car number 80. We saw him demonstrating pit entry earlier on. Let's see what he can do to improve on a 126.8. Unfortunately, it's not going to be an improvement for him. 3/10 down in the number 80. And looks to me like we only have one car that has not set a time in this qualifying session, Douglas Gowans. But vast majority of drivers getting their times in before the end of the session, which means we can go through the grid for race 1 here in the Southern Cross Esports Championship Series at Okayama. It's Broad and Crisdale on the front row. Gianni Lutzu and Brandon Levin, 3rd and 4th. Mike Pepper and Trevor Hearn are 5th and 6th. Ray Oliver is going to start out of 7th place in his brand new machine. Kyle Ridley is starting in 8th. 9th and 10th are Brody Watts and Cameron Edwards. Meanwhile, Anthony Gill and Alexander Newton, 11th and 12th.
13th place tonight is going to go to Clint Harvey there in the number 10 machine. He's joined by Dean Hunt on the 7th row for the start of the heat race. Nathaniel Colburn, out of position number 15, has Peter Bianucci alongside him for 16th place. Michael Thompson will share row number 9 with Anthony Connors there. And then it's Franz Esterbauer and Ben Breyer for 19th and 20th respectively. Ross Stalin and John Lee for 21st and 22nd. And then Barry Punter and Douglas Gowans to round out our 24 drivers in the service night. And Nathan Allen serving as our race control member in the Porsche Cayman GT4 manual safety car if so required.
Yes, well, the drivers will certainly be hoping there's not much need for a safety car here tonight. It is pretty tight quarters around Okayama, so there's plenty of chances for it, but by and large, it's a very clean field in this series, so let's hope that lap 1 goes off without too much drama. Waiting for the pace car to pull away momentarily. Thanks to Nathan Allen being one of the drivers in the session, we are going to have to wait for the full gridding time to elapse before we get things going here. But I've got to say, Broad will be very happy with pole position, and Crisdale will be very happy with 2nd. He has come in leaps and bounds. He's always been in contention for podiums, has Rob Crisdale in this series, but has yet to come home with a win. Could this be the chance that he needs tonight? Clock hits 0, and the pace car will momentarily pull away from the field. It's a short formation lap here at Okayama, so the drivers are on the back stretch towards the hairpins. There we go. Pulling away now, and it's all going to be down to Tyson Broad when he leads the field away out of the final corner. And once the pace car goes in, he will be able to pretty much put the power down anytime he likes. It's going to be a difficult run for the drivers if he manages to catch them by surprise. Of course, our reigning champion, Trevor Leonard, we thought that he would be making appearances in this season, but unfortunately it seems that he is championship defender in absentia this season. So it's wide open for the title, and every round counts. So out of the final corner we come. It looks like Tyson Broad's waiting a bit here for the wave of the green flag, and he goes nice and early there. Does indeed catch the field by surprise, but Gianni Lutzu was right on him there, already passing Rob Crisdale for 2nd as they come down to turn 1 for the first time. Down on the inside, Mike Pepper trying to defend the position from Trevor Hearn. Ooh. Oh dear, oh my goodness. All right, it's gone awry at the front of the field, and it looks like there's quite a few cars involved in that one. Clint Harvey and Rob Crisdale both involved in that. The safety car has been called. It looks to me like Crisdale just went wide off the exit of turn 1, went into the wall and speared across the track.
That was huge indeed. That was, well, I've been talking about generally good racing here amongst this series. Yeah, just a small mistake from what, must have been Crisdale there on the outside of turn 1, has found the fence and fired back across into the field, which is an absolute disaster there. So pit entry is closed here as they gathered up the field, but we're going to have a look at it all on the virtual racing school replay to make sense of it all. So Crisdale there's centre, right, left of screen. Round turn 1 we go, and just washing wide there in behind Lutzu. And off the tyre bundle, slams into one of the cars there. Unfortunately, I'm not quite caught up on that. And you see collected by several more on the entry to turn 2 there. And just absolutely turns into a bit of a disaster wreck there. So Trevor Hearn, the first car that he collects, it sends Mike Pepper, I think it was, flying out into the gravel there. And then also trips up at least one more driver. Dean Hunt was the 4th driver involved in all of that. So back to live pitch as we go, and the safety car of Nathan Allen called into action immediately there on that. We're going to have a look at that all on replay once again here, Reese.
There we are indeed. Now, what you'll notice here is when Chrisdale fires across the front of the track, he nearly wipes out one driver there on the outside into turn 2, and that was Ray Oliver, who joins us in the commentary box now. Ray, you had a front row seat to that incident coming out of turn 1. How did that feel? It must have felt like a lucky escape.
I'm still trying to figure out how I missed it, to be honest.
Well, nonetheless, starting well for you, Ray. P7, where you started, and there's a couple of competitors out of contention now. Do you think you'll be able to work your way forward from this point?
We'll see how it goes. I reckon a few of these guys might get a little bit loose and drop out, but you never know.
So can you give us a bit of insight into how the fixed setup feels around here? How are you going to be driving to manage the tyres here?
Just try and let the fronts cool down a bit and just keep the pressure off them so that you can at least keep the tyres underneath you, because usually tyres go off pretty well on these and a few of the guys burn it pretty quickly.
All right, well, best of luck, Ray. Thank you very much for joining us. We might be able to check in with you later.
Cheers.
That was Ray Oliver. Goodness gracious, yeah, it must have felt like a big relief for him, avoiding Rob Chrisdale spearing across the track. We've got a replay on board coming up from Nathaniel Coburn here, and this is what it looked like with all of the chaos going on up ahead. Coburn is back in the field here in 12th, and oh boy. Oh, goodness, he actually collected Chrisdale as he bounced back onto the track. A couple of spinners as well through turn 2, trying to check up to avoid that. Coburn, I think, already with a bit of front right fender damage, which isn't going to help his handling.
Yeah, certainly won't help at all, but I think there, Reese, one of the lucky ones to get away with just a tap there, which for this sprint race might be manageable. Interesting to hear there from Ray what he reckons about the car and the tyres for this one today, Reese, because of course the Porsche 911 RSR is certainly an endurance class vehicle designed primarily for endurance racing, and we had to see the field bunching up massively here. And I believe it was because we just caught the stricken Rob Christo, who's actually, I think, just got stuck on the inside fence there in the number 8 he has, so he has to send that one back to the pit lane. And well, that almost tripped up a few people potentially in the infield there as they made their way around the back of the train. But they're coming back to the car and the setup conversation there from Ray. I think as a driver who's familiar with this car, GTE class vehicle, as an endurance machine that often runs multiple hours on a single set of tyres and runs through multiple tanks of fuel, and the changing balance and weight and load that produces on a car. Interesting to hear that in this series we're going to see a little bit more emphasis on tyre preservation and management in a short sprint like this, but good to know and get that understanding from the drivers who are out there racing tonight, as always.
Yeah, indeed. It often does come down to the drivers who look after their tyres a little bit better, because this sprint format really encourages some aggressive driving, particularly in the first race of the night. So drivers are going to have to keep an eye out for, or sort of keep a feeler out for how their car feels on the way towards the end of this race, because that is information that they can take forward into the second race of the night, the longer one, which will give you some fresh boots when you decide to pit, is incredibly important. Well, we should expect the safety car to come in at the end of this lap, and it's been a pretty perfect start for Tyson Broad. He has one less rival to think about there at the top of the field, with Rob Chrisdale effectively out of the running now, thanks to coming back into the pits. But he's got Gianni Lutsu to face up against, who we know is quite aggressive.
Yeah, fast driver Lutsu has been making his mark in a few different series across Australia, New Zealand and league areas at the moment. As we're going to jump to another replay here real quick on board with Ray Oliver, having just spoken to him a moment ago. His view of what it looked like down into turn 1 here. So, yeah, the speed 7 there. Obviously plenty of gap there, trying to make sure it's nice and steady into the first corner, as always. And then, yeah, you see Christo coming across. Bang, and oh, thank goodness the doors open for him, Reese, there. And, well, little moment there, as I believe that was, see just real quickly there, the man ahead of him.
I think.
Trevor Hearn, I believe, in the 949 was able to slip through there, just ahead of him on the exit of turn 2. But we'll have to worry about that. And they all got through A-OK. So safety cars pulled away from the field here, Reese. Race back in the hands of Tyson Broad. He may accelerate at Mike Knight corner here if he so chooses, but if he started that first race there a little later, I expect he'll wait a little bit here and make sure that safety car is in pit lane for good measure. Round last corner we come with the race leaders. See there, Lutzu is ready to make sure to give Tyson no inch where possible. So waiting for the restart here from our race leader. And there he goes, halfway down the straight, catches Lutzu napping a fraction. So good launch from your race leader, and we get this race underway. 12 minutes and a bit on the clock here out of 20.
Broad leads into turn one, almost a pass being made there. Brody Watts trying on Ray Oliver here, going to be on the outside coming into turn two. With the off-camber nature of this corner, may be able to get the over-under done, but it looked like he suffered a bit of understeer on the way through. Drivers are dipping it into the gravel. They will want to try and minimise that. Anthony Jewell right on the back of Alexander Newton here. They've also got Peter Biancucci in tow, who has a team change bringing to it. Oh, there's been a spinner behind Mr. Biancucci. Looks to me like it was Anthony Connors going for a bit of an adventure, and also Michael Thompson. Looks like Rob Crisdale has made it back out onto the track as well, and unfortunately it seems he has lost a lap, but he has made it back out and he can start competing for points, as now Lutzu really pressuring Broad. Got a good run out of the left-hander, not quite far up enough to go for a move up the inside into the hairpin. Broad's covering that off very nicely.
Yeah, Lutzu in the middle of the safety car period was definitely aggressive
with
warming procedures. More trouble there down at the Redmond hairpin. The 166 belongs to Rossdale, and thankfully there parks that car up in the middle of the corner, and everyone's able to split around him there, so not too much drama, thankfully, as on board with Lutzu here out of the final turn. To the inside of Tyson Broad, gets a good run there out of the corner, and he's going to set up the pass for turn one here. Broad tries to narrow it up here, but opens the corner a fraction and gives Lutzu the space. He's going to try and maybe hang it around the outside here of first corner and open up Williams. He does indeed. Going to stick the nose back in for Williams and gets the lead back for the time being, but Lutzu is definitely thinking about overs and unders here. Reese goes to the left side through the Moss S, but that's the outside of Atwood curve, so back and forth they go. They clearly can't decide which side of the track they want to be on, because it's all, we'll just bring in Brandon Levin in here as we ride on board with the 29 from third place.
Brilliant job from Johnny Lutzu to hold on to that outside line. Got on the throttle nice and early, and he's got the momentum coming onto the back stretch, but Broad's going to be up the inside into the hairpin. Will Lutzu be able to make use of that outside line to hold on to this position? Maybe just Broad is ahead as they come into Revolver, but it turns back into side-by-side as they go through the turn, make a little bit of wheel-to-wheel contact, and there is Johnny Lutzu into the lead. It is done. That move took about half a lap to complete, but Lutzu managed to get it done conclusively.
Yeah, that hairpin turn with the amount of banking it's got, prime opportunity to stick it around the outside, and then the double lefts of Revolver and Piper nowhere near as banked, which really challenges the car on the outside if they want to hang on and contest the spot that they've just been challenged for. So Tyson unable to do so this time by, but he's certainly just there. But Gianni looks quick, and look at this immediately. Gianni's pulled to the inside line to make sure there's no slipstream, although you can see here Tyson is not willing or bothering to play that game there. He stuck to the left-hand side of the track and just did the normal thing. So clearly different mindset between these two guys when it comes to their driving attitudes in this first race. Trouble for Franz Estebar on the number 80. That car is looking very wrecked there, and I expect to see a mechanical black flag shot next to his name, but we'll wait for now and go back to the front of the field here, Reese, because our top three are still in close contention. They can see a small breakaway between Levin and Cameron Edwards in P4, but if any fighting between these guys ahead breaks out again, certainly we'll see that gap close away, as this time with Johnny Lutzu going to the inside line, Broad follows for the slipstream.
Yeah, as do the majority of the top 10. Well, they stay in line coming into the hairpin. I think that Tyson Broad won't be too fussed about this. He knows that he has that 40-point lead over Lutzu, so giving up the lead for the time being is not going to hurt him too much. He still has a chance to fight back in the second race, as there's a potential move behind. Cameron Edwards having to make space for Trevor Hearn at the left-hand hairpin. Edwards is going to have the inside now for this right-hander, and the shortest line through the turn prevails, but only until they get to the exit. Hearn continuing to try and force the issue around Mike Knight turn. Unsuccessful coming into the last corner, but he picks up the throttle very nicely, does Hearn. Might be a move on the outside coming into turn 1, even gives Edwards a little bit of a bump draft as they come across the line to start lap 7. And might just be an over-under here if he can find the space. He's going to be on the outside coming into turn 2. Edwards has to slow it up a little bit more, and there just isn't any space for Trevor Hearn to get by. That's going to bring Kyle Ridley right into this with Ray Oliver in tow. Take it easy, boys, on the way into Atwood. It's a bit of a wider entry for Kyle Ridley as Ray Oliver suffers a few technical issues. He's got Brody Watts in tow as well. It is a proper fight here now for 4th place. These guys have lost a lot of time to the top 3, and trying the outside line now a bit later on the brakes is Trevor Hearn. He's not going to be able to get the line around the outside. In fact, opens himself up to an attack from Kyle Ridley, and Ray Oliver now having to defend from Brody Watts here. They almost bang wheels on the way through Revolver. Goodness gracious, very good racing here. And they're going to make it 3 wide, are they? Okay, Anthony Jewell, let's see what you got. Almost gives Ray Oliver a tap in the rear as they continue to run side by side up ahead.
Oh boy, that was certainly getting a bit feisty there between these 3 guys. And you can see there, Brody Watts finally gets the job done on the exit of the Hobbs hairpin, and Jules going to have to wait a little bit longer here to have his go at Ray Oliver's. Oh, trouble there. Carl really a little wide through last corner. That's going to actually put him a bit vulnerable to attack from Watts and Oliver. But never mind that. Ray Oliver's having a go at Brody Watts to the outside for turn number 1. It's going to have to be for the 224 to get his spot back here. Tries to pinch Watts. I actually think he's done the job there quite nicely around the outside of turn 1. And is almost clear at turn 2 as he makes his way up the inside there. And it does slot ahead of Brody Watts. So lost the spot there at the Hobbs hairpin, but straight back by the start of the lap here as they make their way down to Atwood Curve. Lap number 8 in this race. We are time certain in this one as always. And we are 13 and a half minutes, into this one. So time continuing to tick away. And certainly there, these guys continuing to scrap for P4. Another quick look at that side-by-side replay here. Just going to see here one of our drivers pushing a little wide. 2 drivers actually pushing. In fact, and it's Esteban. Round he goes at last corner. This is what we just caught the end of, and that is certainly why his car was looking a whole lot worse for wear. Concrete, not too good to see there. There's a couple of things from race controllers come through as well here, Reese. 15-second post-race time penalties being issued to several of the drivers. 727 Nathaniel Coburn's being given penalty for making contact with Ross Thalen. That'll be at Redmond hairpin, as side-by-side at Hobbs hairpin in live pictures there was Kyle Ridley. And I believe that was Trevor Hearn, yes, going at it there for position number 5. So, it's all busy here on track. And I was just going to say, the other driver that's been given a penalty is car 440, Barry Punter, for making contact with the number 10 of Clint Harvey. 15 seconds post-race for him as well.
All right, so race control right on it here tonight. Doing their best to negotiate all of this as Ridley continues to try and find a way past Trevor Hearn. Not going to happen at turn 2, unfortunately, and it seems that Hearn got a slightly better exit. This is going to mean that Ray Oliver has a chance at getting past Ridley at some point if he can hook up the slipstream. But you see how aggressive Ridley was into Atwood that time around. He's definitely keeping himself in the running here for 5th place, and all this battling is now allowing Cameron Edwards to jet away from these guys. It's pulling out to the inside now for Kyle Ridley. As goodness, that's aggressive from Brody Watts just behind. Bumps Ray Oliver wide at the hairpin. A little bit of damage now to both cars.
Looks like they've gotten away with that one for now, but elbows out in a car like this, you can't afford to have it go on for too long because plenty of vulnerable aerodynamic parts on this vehicle. Back to the front of the field on the left side of your screen. I was wondering if that was slightly becoming a bit of a foregone conclusion up front because Gianni Luzzu was looking very comfortable there compared to Tyson Broad. But there on the side-by-side, Broad has closed down that lead a bit there. You can see Luzzu continuing to aggressively defend by breaking the toe down the front stretch. Broad still continuing to have absolutely none of it and not bother with chasing him down the front straightaway as they go through turn 1. Just over 4 minutes left for these drivers as we continue to watch that battle pack for 4th on the right side of your screen here. See the leaders pushing the limits of turn 2. They're just a tiny bit of dust kicked up though, so there's nothing too dramatic about that for now. But certainly using every bit of track they've got and a little bit more for good measure there, Reece.
Indeed. Wow, what a great battle this is for 4th place. Proper train of cars here that could take advantage if there's anything that happens up the front of this pack. Looked like a very good exit for Trevor Hearn. He might be lining up a move on Cam Edwards here at the hairpin. Getting bumper to bumper now. He's going to be forced to go to the outside with Edwards protecting the inside line. But Hearn can be a little more aggressive into the hairpin if he wants. Chooses not to. Switches to the outside for Revolver. That compromises Edwards' line. It's just not working out for Trevor Hearn there. He's hoping that he'll be able to do an over-under here on the exit and try to go up the inside of the hairpin, but Edwards is catching right on to what he's doing here. Cameron is doing a very good job at keeping all of these drivers behind as Ray Oliver tries to find his way back past Brody Watts. Doesn't work out for him. They actually lost a bit of time through the hairpin. So what happens down the front straight now? Cameron Edwards puts the power down. Everyone behind him does the same, if not a little better. And Ray Oliver is now under a big threat here from Anthony Jewell. Has to stick to the inside. Edwards still protecting the inside line coming into turn 1.
As Ray Oliver,
a little bit of contact between Oliver and Jewell. Just a slight bit of contact, though, as it's side by side. Take it easy, boys. Oh, wow. Kyle Ridley is in a 949 Motorsports sandwich at the moment. He's got it all to work out here.
Yeah, Trevor Hearn wide through the exit of turn 1 is what set that up there. Reese and Kyle really able to get a better run off the corner, but as you said there, squished into the sandwich and not able to make anything of it as we now watch 2 angles of this same battle pack down the backstretch here. Look at this, Ridley's a little slow on the inside of the circuit there. Brody Watts is going to have a go at him around the outside of the hairpin here. And he's actually up ahead here. This is a good opportunity for him to make it stick, but really gets a very good drive off the corner. He's going to shut that one out as we see just in behind. It's Anthony Jewell and Ray Oliver going at it. A little bit of a hip check there from Jewell perhaps, but Oliver's sent back packing in behind Alexander Newton there in another one of our racecraft simulation entries, in the number 13 car. So he shuffles back to position number 10. And a minute and a half on the clock means that, well, our race leaders are coming around the final turn. They're going to get the white flag this time by. So 12-lap race is going to be here for our first one at Okayama. Confirm as we come past the start-finish line. We should see Mr. Barney, indeed he is, waving the white flag there at the start-finish line. So 3.7 kilometres of racing, and that pack there is still not settled for 4th place. And also important to keep our eyes on P12, currently held by Mike Pepper. He's sitting pretty comfy for now, but he might jump up a couple of spots if he's a bit unlucky. Nevertheless, he sits in that crucial reverse grid pole position here. But we'll wait and see how things play out on this final lap race.
He's 1.2 seconds behind Peter Biancucci, who's at the back of this pack. This battle for 4th stretches all the way back to 10th, 11th place. Incredible to see. And the racing action has been quite good, I have to say. There's been a few little taps here and there, bit of push and shove, but it's what we like to see. Nothing too egregious, and Edwards seems safe here for 4th coming into the hairpin. Still got Trevor Hearn and Kyle Ridley right on his tail, as it looks like that is a further problem for Barry Punter. He was already facing up to a penalty from race control. Looks like a bit of a better exit for Trevor Hearn. Meanwhile, he's going to try and squeeze up the inside, but Edwards covers him coming into the hairpin. Very aggressive on the brakes is Trevor. He's able to keep it on the circuit and try and defend here from Kyle Ridley. One last chance to get positions, but the checkered flag flies up ahead. It is Gianni Lutsu who's going to take the first race win of the night. Broad and Levin complete the podium. It's still on here. Oh my goodness, this has really allowed Edwards to get away, but it looks like they're going to work out their positions exactly as they were when they started the final lap. Whoa, what a fight that was.
Yeah, again, just deep under brakes, trying to pressure Cameron Edwards there was Trevor Hearn at the Redmond hairpin and not able to make it work. Kyle Ridley in reply, not able to make it work around the outside of the final 3 turns. That was always going to be a bit of a tough ask there for him, as we see more of our drivers make their way across the line, and all pretty calm and orderly fashion there for this group of guys. A little bit of space between them all here, but we'll stay on there. The 166 unfortunately got a bit of a sad face Porker going on there with the lip of his car after the damage he's picked up earlier on, and Barry Punter there after his late spin. Car though still intact for the most part, so just got to get it around the last corner there and down to the finish line for the number 440. He will be one of our last drivers to finish up. In fact, he will be the last one to finish up, which means we can now go to our race results. Gianni Lutsu gets it home by a second there ahead of Tyson Broad at the end of that first race. And then 2 seconds to round out our podium with Brandon Levin there in position number 3. Cameron Edwards, as we saw, hanging on to 4th place ahead of Trevor Hearn, Kyle Ridley in P6, Brody Watts in 7th there. Barely anything in between them all as they came across the line there. Anthony Jewell a little bit further back for P8 with Alex Newton just behind him for P9. And then Ray Oliver rounding out the top 10 as we go over the page here and crucially pick up 11 and 12. And Mike Pepper still hanging on to that crucial reverse skid pole here.
Indeed. Yankuchi 11th, Pepper 12th, with Dean Hunt finishing lucky 13th, about 7 seconds behind. Held off the likes of Ben Breyer and Nathaniel Coburn, who got a 15-second post-race penalty for his contact with Ross Stalin, who finishes in 17th. They're split by Michael Thompson. Esther Bauer comes home in 18th, with Anthony Connors and Barry Punter being the last drivers to take the checkered flag. Rob Crisdale finished a lap down, as did Clint Harvey and John Lee. I think that'll be that'll sting quite a bit for Rob Crisdale. Of course, he started P2, and that is going to bring to an end the results for race 1. We're in the warm-up session now, which means we can take a moment to thank our series sponsors here at the Southern Cross Esports League. Of course, V8 Drive Day Perth, title sponsor of this series, Perth's greatest driving experience. They offer rides and hot laps and specially prepared V8 race cars around Wanneroo Raceway. You can be the passenger or the driver in the closest thing you can get to what Australia's best do every weekend. Visit them and book your session at v8driveday.com.au. We also like to thank West Australian Automotive Equipment, specialising in everything you need for your workshop, from hand tools to car hoists and everything in between. Better yet, they deliver Australia-wide. Call them on 9303 9068 or head to automotiveequipmentwa.com.au. This series is also brought to you by Word of Mouth Signs. Pip Allen works to provide the best in signs and graphics, doing everything from vinyl wraps for cars, vans, premises and much more to laser engraving and graphic design. No job too small. Head over to wordofmouthsigns.com.au or call on 0400 551 555. V-Race Experience is Perth's best full-motion simulator experience, located in the heart of Osborne Park. They use Motum simulators, professional hardware and class-leading virtual reality goggles, so you can race like a pro and get fully immersed in the virtual world. To find out more, go to vrace.com.au. Speaking of Motum simulation, their unique patented True Motion technology delivers 6 degrees of freedom in a fully immersive VR environment. Motum delivers simulation solutions across Australia and internationally, working with many leading brands. To learn more, head to motumsimulation.com. And finally, 24/7 Sim Services are handling race control tonight. They're an independent provider of live race control, rulebooks, officiating and more on all sim racing platforms. Check them out at 247simservices.com. Well, now we can take a moment to look at the schedule for the rest of the season, Dan, and it's a brilliant schedule here at Southern Cross Esports. Of course, we're at round 3, Okayama. We go to Daytona International Speedway in 3 weeks' time before we go to Oran Park for round 5, and what a trio of tracks to end the season there.
Absolutely, indeed. Road America, Spa, and Bathurst, Mount Panorama once more. Certainly a great little mix of circuits there. Plenty of, particularly there, Daytona, Road America, and Spa. 3 of America and Europe, and also a European great there in amongst it too. And then, of course, Australian icons, although ex-Oran Park, I guess you could say. These days, long may it live on in our simulation memories. And Mount Panorama Circuit, of course, where else are you going to go if you're an Australian series? It seems pretty un-Australian, I guess, to say if you don't end up at Bathurst somewhere on your schedule. So, in the middle of our warm-up now, not long left to go actually, but a reminder of where we're at. So, warm-up currently on its way towards completion means that we've got race 2 coming up in just about half a minute's time. Reverse top 12 results from that first race that we've just completed, and a compulsory pit stop for all 4 tyres between 5 minutes in and 35 minutes in for this race to change up the strategy for the longer one and see how drivers play that one out. So we'll be very curious to see who goes early, who goes long, and who splits it right down the middle in this second race.
Yeah, lots of options for strategy. It's going to be a very difficult run for the drivers here. And I'll tell you what, it's certainly going to be a fun one. I think just before we jump into the race, of course, we're going to have to deal with the grid timer. I think we can take a couple of moments here before the start of the race to have a chat to Cameron Edwards, one of the guys instrumental in putting this series together. G'day, Cam. Welcome to the commentary box. Very good battle there for 4th place at the end of the race. It must have been pretty nerve-wracking with all those drivers behind you.
Yeah, Trevor Hearn was certainly putting on the pressure and managed to hold him off and a line of drivers behind him. So hopefully we have another good race on this time.
Yeah, indeed. Starting out of 9th place in race 2, what's your aim here for this race? Get back into the top 5?
First priority will be get through turn 1 and 2 without getting any damage. And then after that, we'll evaluate where we're going. Hopefully we can get another top 5. I know I've got some quick guys in, Tyson and Gianni behind me, so I'll have to see how aggressive they are and then maybe tag onto them and follow them through the pack.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck, Cam. Thank you very much for joining us as the timer ticks down. We are about ready to get going here for race 2. Results from 13th onwards are pretty much the same as they finished in race 1, but to refresh yourselves, here's the top 12. Pepper is going to start on pole position after finishing 12th. He's got Biancucci alongside him. Oliver, Newton, Jewell and Watts round out the top 6. Then we've got Kyle Ridley and Trevor Hearn starting on row 4. Edwards in 8th, Edwards in 9th, alongside Brandon Levin. And then we've got Tyson Broad and Gianni Lutsu rounding out the top 12. The drivers are away now and getting ready to take this start as the iRacing AI-controlled safety car is going to pop into the pit lane momentarily. The pace car takes the old pit entry here, and it's definitely not what you want to do if you're one of the race drivers. So now the field falls under the control of Mike Pepper. When does he decide to go? Very early, in fact, almost at the apex of the final corner. That's a very good start for Pepper as the green flag flies and we are racing for race 2 here at Okayama. Peter Biancucci is going to hold on to 2nd, but Ray Oliver already trying to make moves, just passing Alexander Newton into the first turn. Anthony Jewell manages to clear Cameron Edwards and Kyle Ridley, who go side by side into turn 2. It's looking quite interesting there in the mid-pack, meanwhile, as Michael Thompson tries to hold off Ross Thalen. And oh dear, Ray Oliver, he's still having to face up against quite a bit of pressure from Kyle Ridley. Straightens up the throttle nicely. It looks like a bit of a slide there for Oliver, and someone has spun there. That is Brody Watts. Oh, goodness. And it looks like Nathaniel Coburn's gone for a bit of an adventure too.
Oh, I've missed Coburn's slide, but yep. Watts goes around on the exit of the outward curve. The other one I wanted to keep an eye on is have a look at how quickly Tyson Broad got up the field, but he's now joined by Gianni Lutsu on the inside of the hairpin. Oh, trouble with the hairpin. Crisdale's around again.
Oh, no. More trouble for Rob Crisdale. This has been a horror night for him. Stuck in the gravel trap as Ray Oliver now tries his best to make his way past Peter Biancucci. Meanwhile, there goes Tyson Broad up the inside of Cameron Edwards. Now, it looks like Broad has made his way all the way up from 11th to 7th in the first lap. Very good job, I have to say. And oh, goodness, it's like a pack of sardines out there. There's barely any space to cram yourself in these battle packs that are already starting to form. Mike Pepper still leads, and by quite some margin. It looks like about 2 seconds is the lead for Mike Pepper. Peter Biancucci has everything to fight for here in 2nd place, with Ray Oliver just behind him and still trying to face up against the pressure from all the drivers behind. Alexander Newton has managed to hold on very nicely to 3rd on the road at the moment. Very late on the brakes for Anthony Jewell meanwhile, but manages to stay out of the rear of Newton. Now Oliver gets a nice clean exit from Atwood, and goodness gracious me, this is going to be a move up the inside of the hairpin. How successful is it going to be for Oliver? Does he have what it takes to brake late? There's no anti-lock brakes in these 911 GTEs, and it looks like Biancucci, oh goodness, he gave Oliver the space, but ends up getting tapped by Anthony Jewell and Alexander Newton as well. Oh no! Oh, that has just ballooned into an incredible incident there at Revolver. Biancucci re-entering the circuit. Lutsu turned in. Oh my God, what is going on out there?
It's become an absolute chaos zone. Safety car is deployed by race control after that one, if I'm not mistaken. And oh my word, it's just gone from mostly under control to absolute carnage. Indeed, safety car is out for all of that. So, wow, it's just gone absolutely off the rails. 3 minutes on the clock, and after an opening lap that we thought was calm and collected there, and Tyson Broad can barely get his car back to the pit lane. He's at risk of going a lap down here if he can't get back in to the pits to fix it up.
Okay, so we've got a little bit to dissect here, haven't we? So here's the first incident. Peter Biancucci getting passed by Ray Oliver on the inside of the hairpin, but watch out for Alexander Newton and Anthony Jewell. Jewell going very deep into the hairpin, managed to pull it up, but unfortunately, Biancucci was already going to the inside of the corner at the time. So Biancucci goes off the circuit, and you'll see Gianni Lutsu there in the right of frame coming across to turn in for Revolver. Biancucci, well, he doesn't have much time to slow down, does he? And ends up tapping Lutsu around. Now, another car ended up getting cleaned up there as well. Absolute chaos out there. But we can focus on Tyson Broad as well, as he just avoided all of that. Unfortunately, trying to pass this car around the outside, looked like it got a bit crossed up over the curb, and Broad just got tapped straight into the tyre barrier. We'll stay on it because BAM! And even more happened because Biancucci ended up cleaning him up too.
Yeah, it's just one unfortunate accident after another, and then we're told potentially a little bit more. It looks like that might finally be the end of it all. As more cars coming around, but you can see now Tyson Broad's car is doing the crab. We're told just wait for it to come here. So up into Redmond and Hobbs we go with the number 7 car, and so damaged the car is not stable, and it's just completely incapable of getting that thing back to the pits at any semblance of even pacing speeds here. So, yeah, good lord, it just completely imploded there. Just trying to, so you can see he's got the car fixed up, fast repair used, which is available in this series. So he's still on that lead lap here, which is going to be all the more important for him. But, well, after being in all kinds of trouble there, I thought for a second, Gianni Lutsu knocked around. That's suddenly going to cause all kinds of chaos. But then, crucially, Tyson Broad also gets picked up in it, and the pit window opens here under safety car. And our first driver is going to be Clint Harvey. He's going to bring it down the lane to get his 4 tyres service done here. This seems like a good opportunity to come down and get it done. I'm a bit surprised you're not seeing more drivers in, which to me may...
I'll tell you why, because the field was going by pit entry at the time, and pit entry was closed. So I get the feeling that Harvey and Broad might be getting penalties there because pit entry was not declared as open.
Far as I could tell, Reese, that pit entry has been closed moments ago whilst we were talking about this here. And indeed, Clint Harvey has just been given his penalty clearance, and Tyson Broad has also opted to bring it down the lane. So,
right. Okay, sorry.
Actually, it might have just been ever so slight timing thing, but yeah, indeed, both the drivers down on the pit lane are not going to be issued with penalties for all of that, and they've reopened the pit lane. So that's 2 drivers getting their CPS done here nice and early. It's going to be down to how the tyres behave. Your track is warmer than that previous race. We're going to jump back to another virtual racing school replay and see it on board here with Gianni Lutsu. So up the inside of Cameron Edwards at the hairpin. He'd been trying to get past Cameron for a couple of corners. And there's Biancucci there on the inside. You think he's almost got him clear. Biancucci will just, stabs back into the throttle a fraction. Try and get things going again. And you can see there, I believe that might be Ross Thalen in the RSW graphics car that's in that green and black entry that takes some damage. And then the other car there would have been the other one of the 949 entries of Trevor Hearn, who is currently down the back of the lane and has come down the pits for repair. So I believe that was the other car we saw involved with the Biancucci and Lutsu triggered incident. And then, just completely going off there at Piper as well, between the racecraft entries of Newton, Jewell and Tyson Broad. But finally, all cleaned up now, Reese, and we get ready to go racing again shortly. But one last look at that incident from Biancucci's car this time here at the hairpin.
Yep, so number 28 comes up the inside there and taps him wide, and Biancucci just trying to get back up to speed, but there is Lutsu. Man, I think it's just a case of poor timing there for that incident, and I suppose with hindsight, Biancucci could have stayed on the grass there but he might not have been aware that the drivers were coming up as quickly as they were. Time to go back to green flag racing then. Mike Pepper gets on the throttle and Ray Oliver finds himself in second place. Already there's a defense from Kyle Ridley on Anthony Jewell. The driver that tapped Biancucci around at the hairpin goes to the outside in turn 1, becomes the inside for turn 2. Looked like a nice clean move there for Anthony Jewell, I have to say. Meanwhile, we've got drivers trying to work their way back up here. Number 4, Gianni Lutzu, trying his best here to get past Franz Estebauer in the Perth Fork Trucks entry. Goodness gracious, and a bit later on the brakes there is Lutzu, sweeps round the outside of Estebauer and retakes what is now 11th position. Lutzu's got a lot of work to do here. Alexander Newton, meanwhile, in the Racecraft Simulations entry, finds himself in 5th place, trying to find his way past Kyle Ridley as Cameron Edwards has the double defense to do here between Brody Watts and Brandon Levin, who are coming together almost. Oh, take it easy. Don't want to go side by side through Revolver. Brody Watts had to yield that position. I think a very wise move. He can search for a move at other parts of the racetrack.
Yeah, patience is going to be critical here on the opening lap of this restart, as we see Ross Thallon there on the right side of track trying to go around Ben Breyer in the number 58 machine, and he gets up the inside for Hobbs hairpin, and yeah, Breyer is keeping that door nice and open. It's going to allow Gianni Lutzu up the inside here at Mike Knight corner in succession. So it's going to be very crucial, of course, because this next couple of minutes here is going to be all about setting up the foundation for who gets a good race in here and who is able to walk away from it all at the end of it. Because critically here, pit times, about 1 minute transit time, and crucially just over 30 seconds stationary to take your 4-tyre service here at Okayama. So oh no, they're not trouble at turn 1 there. Car going around, tapping Biancucci, but that was the number 10 machine of Clint Harvey. He taking his pit stop there, goes up the inside, but doesn't get the move done, and unfortunately spins. So trouble there for the number 10 again after, a race start he'd rather regret. But thankfully this time Biancucci is able to walk away with that one unaffected, at least not too much there, as we see these cars up towards the front of the field, file down into the hairpin, all single file for now, with Mike Pepper holding on to a pretty comfy lead there, but looks like once again Cameron Edwards going to be the driver under pressure first. He's got Brandon Levin trying to eye him up here through these next couple of corners into the final hairpin sectors. But so far, looks like the front of the field has calmed down enough to get this race underway, although Anthony Jewell has been issued a penalty from race control for his involvement in the incidents early on there at the hairpin that triggered that whole safety car procedure.
Indeed. Well, a little bit more racing going on through the hairpins as we see a call into the pits there from Anthony Jewell, and that is going to be to serve that drive-through penalty. So now, with the race stabilising a little bit, we can check out what happened to Rob Crisdale at the start of the race. Crisdale has worked his way back up to 13th after this, meanwhile. Looked like just problems going on there, and Crisdale locking up a bit going into the hairpin, went a little bit too deep and got spun around for his troubles. It's a big shame because Crisdale's qualifying performance was quite special. Still, it's a long season, and he'll hopefully be able to capitalise on what is clearly some really good potential race-winning pace. All right, moving a little bit further up the field, side by side on the way to the hairpin between Levin and Watts here, fighting over P6. Levin just defends it and makes contact with Brody Watts on the way out of the hairpin. Doesn't look like any damage to either car, so no harm, no foul, at least for the time being, but it looks like Brody Watts is really lining up Levin here. Don't forget that Watts finished race 1 in P7. Levin got on the podium, so to see that Watts is really trying to line up Levin for a move here shows that maybe he's found a bit of pace in that car between the races.
Yes, that would be the case, you're thinking. I'm just listening in to the background for that exact message that's just come up on top of the overlay there. Peter Biancucci has been issued a penalty for race control, and
DQ.
He's just been ejected from the server for a bit of talk back from the stewards, I dare suggest, because he was not too impressed with being issued a penalty, and looks like the team in race control have decided no more of that from him tonight. So not too good to see that, but well, potentially contentious there, because I'm pretty sure that penalty was for the contact with Lutsu.
Yes.
That triggered it all. But yeah, I think rule number one always as a driver, you need to just accept the penalty when it happens. Discuss it with the stewarding team if they're available afterwards. Middle of the race is not, generally speaking, not a good time to go for it. We should go back to that fight for P5 because Cameron Edwards defending from Levin forces him deep into the hairpin. Brody Watts almost runs into the side of that car. They continue to scrap and they're really starting to put elbows out here as they're all trying to get on. And look at this now. That's put Watts out under pressure from Gianni Lutzu, who's joining the back of the group. Up into the Redmond hairpin we go. If Watts can hang on here, he's got the inside for the final 3 corners. And he's in deep there, a little bit of side by side with Lutzu. This is not what either car wants, as Levin's going to bring himself down onto the pit lane to get his compulsory stop done. They continue side by side, do Watts and Lutzu, Through last corner we come, and Watts gets his nose back ahead to resume the position he held. But now there's that gap up to Cameron Edwards and Alexander Newton. These two guys continuing to scrap, though. This is going to give drivers like Tyson Broad all the power in the world. And speaking of Tyson, he's up to position number 13. He is far and away leading out. Actually, he might be leading our drivers who have pitted. Yes, he will be, because Trevor Hearn came in at the end of lap 2 and took a minute stationary, which must have been for non-fast repairs, as it were. So I would expect Hearn back down on the lane to take tyres within the compulsory pit window, given that the time regulations are a thing in this series race.
Yeah, that's the thing about Tyson Broad. Will he be thinking that he's cleared his pit stop? Because, yeah, the official race timer showed that the 5-minute mark was not passed, but on the iRacing in-sim timer, it was. What you got to consider is that the iRacing timer includes the gridding time as well. So maybe something to work out there. Let's watch this incident. Anthony Jewell down in 22nd now has completed his pit stop. Jewell got a meatball flag from this, going 3 wide into turn 1, and oh dearie me, that was a tap from the car of Clint Harvey, trying to find his way through on Barry Punter as well. That's a big shame for Anthony Jewell. He was driving very well in this race, and what looked like a reasonably innocuous point of contact has turned into a meatball flag as Brody Watts now brings it in onto the pit lane, and he's joined in there by Franz Estabauer and Trevor Hearn.
He is indeed, and also race control continuing to be busy here. They've given Alexander Newton a drive-through penalty for the contact with Tyson Broad at lap number 2. So the fallout from that incident continuing on here in this race. And speaking of Alex Newton, up the back straight he comes. Cameron Edwards diving up the inside under brakes. And in fact, Edwards is bringing his teammate Gianni Lutzu with him there. Bit of hip and shoulder we go, boys. And in fact, look at that. Alexander Newton is going to back out and give Gianni a chance to go full double barrel on these boys here, because wow, that was ambitious under brakes from Cam Edwards. We didn't see all that much attacking from him in that first race, Reese, but certainly showing it a little deep though into the Redmond hairpin. He's going to give Gianni the chance to maybe think about the over-under here through Hobbs and Mike Knight, although not quite there this time, so they're going to single file through these last couple of corners for now, and Newton brings his car down onto pit lane in the background of shot there. So going to send him tumbling down the order as Kyle Ridley has come down into the lane for his compulsory service out of position number 3, I believe.
Indeed. Well then, Tyson Broad continuing to work his way forward now up into 7th place, having presumably completed his pit stop within the pit timer. Battles going on all through the track now as now we see Coburn trying to chase down Harvey. Just coming out of the pits there is Alexander Newton, and looks to me like he's just managed to cover off Clint Harvey there. Harvey coming in for his pit stop and would have had some wounds to be licked for sure. It was a drive-through there for Alex Newton there for, I would presume, the earlier contact with the number 28 of Anthony Jewell. So Cameron Edwards now holding on to 4th place where he finished in race 1. Remember, these drivers still have to come onto the pit lane. Here's the replay of how Gianni Lutsu got past him. It was a fairly textbook outbraking manoeuvre at the hairpin.
Yes, it was indeed. Now, I'm just having a read again through, by the way, I'll actually have a quick look at this the live shots here as we see number 33 of John Lee having been passed by Harvey there for position number 12. And now Nathaniel Coburn's turn to have a go at the rear bumper of that racecraft car. Now, it's just going to go back to the pit cycle conversation as Ross Thallon, Ben Breyer and Michael Thompson have all brought it down onto the lane to get their compulsory service complete. I wonder what the definition of the pit entry is for race control's perspective, because just to quote the ruling of the series, that is, the completion of the CPS is defined as no car can enter the pit lane prior to the 5-minute mark on the race clock or after the 35-minute mark. So certainly there, when I looked up and saw Tyson Broad in the lane, we were past 5 minutes on the race clock, but that's obviously after he's entered the lane and made his transit down the lane towards his box. So the question is that time going to count from back before Mike Knight corner, where you have to come off the track to enter the lane, or are we counting from where the cones are to indicate the pit speed limit, or somewhere else in between? That will be something that I would like to, I guess, wonder about, as unfortunately at turn 1, I've just seen Brandon Levin try and pass Kyle Ridley. It's not gone to plan for him. He's ended up in the gravel, and Ridley is now through without too much pressure at all there, Reese.
Yes. Well, as we check out John Lee and Nathaniel Coburn fighting out on track, another driver who's not under any pressure is the driver running in 2nd place at the moment, and that is Ray Oliver. Well, Ray, things are going pretty well for you so far here. Started 3rd, now in 2nd. It's looking like the race is going to plan.
To a certain extent, yeah.
Seems like Pepper's holding on to a really good lead here at the moment. Do you think you will be able to make up some of that time here in the last 20 minutes?
You never know. It depends on what the times are going to be with the pits.
So what's your plan? When are you thinking of coming in, if you would care to share that information with us? You don't have to.
I was going to say, where's the fun in that?
Of course. Fair enough, Ray. Well, thanks very much for checking in with us. We'll let you get on with it there in 2nd place. Ever so slight lock up there for Ray as he makes his way through the hairpin, but he's driving incredibly well in this race, I have to say. Absolutely, he is busy in that battle pack for race 1, and now had plenty of clean air to himself and able to keep pushing on here quite nicely. And I think also very interesting to see here is looking at the way the driver's pace is changing here in this race. And, well, if the tyres are degrading here, it's actually certainly showing it, because, well, shortly after that safety car and all that jazz, these guys here at the front of the field have dropped off in pace quite substantially. As you see there, Alexander Newton now complete his compulsory pit stop after that drive-through penalty to boot, and unfortunately puts him nearly a full lap down on the race leaders. He's not getting that time back unless we need another safety car at some point in this race. Continue to watch that battle there for P9. John Lee hanging on ahead of Nathaniel Coburn as they come round the Redmond and Hobbs hairpins the two of them. Looking at them, neither driver has completed their compulsory service, so indeed both cars come down onto the lane at exactly the same time, Reese. Indeed they do.
Oh, now, no, John's just found the grass.
Oh, goodness. Oh, gets back on it. Oh, wow. All right. Well, a little bit of drama there on the way into the pits, but neither car hitting each other. There was a little bit of an appointment with the wall there for John Lee. It looks like he and Nathaniel Coburn coming in nicely for their stop. Very quick replay of that one as Lee just overshoots, does a bit of a lock-up on the way in, manages to keep it out of the tyre barriers, and Nathaniel Coburn right on the brakes there. Good job on him, great awareness to check up.
Yeah, and then I believe for good measure they actually put the pit limiters on at the scanned sign that indicates the pit speed limit, not the cones. So do we give them the small bonk of shame from the broadcast team for not quite getting there that pit entries? All right, well, we're being told yes by Director Jay Kennedy that thumbs up for not causing carnage on pit entry and getting back into the box cleanly there. As one more driver comes in, and it's your race leader, Mike Pepper, to to get his compulsory pit service done for this evening. It's going to send Ray Oliver and Gianni Lutsu to the front of the field, and Gianni's navigating some traffic in the form of Nathaniel Coburn there. In fact, curiously, what has happened to Nathaniel, because he was running up towards the front of the field. He's now come down the lane just now.
Well, don't forget he had a penalty to serve as well. He's had to do a second stop, actually, because I did see on the timing beforehand, he did make a stop, but it was only for 4.4 seconds, and that is nowhere near the required time to get all 4 tyres bolted onto the car.
Indeed, is. I've just also, those two, him and John Lee obviously had that wonderful little thing in pit lane. So that explains a lot. They're a long way behind the next car up the road who's completed their CPS. And that all explains a fair bit as to what was going on there. Meanwhile, battling out on the circuit, Barry Punter, Brody Watts, and Brandon Levin there, all three going through turn 1 there. Looks like Levin's going to be the one to come out ahead of it all, and that's pretty important there. Indeed, Brody Watts gets through too, because Barry Punter is continuing to lap here, but he's yet to complete his pit service, so he is out of sync with these guys that are coming through the field now from the rear. And I'm curious to see how long it takes for Barry to bring that car down onto the lane, because looking at his lap times here, he's definitely struggling compared to the guys who he's around at the moment, lapping in the 129s and 130s. Ray Oliver takes the race lead for a lap, but goes down onto the lane. In fact, so much so that, well, that won't even count as being his lap led there, unfortunately. It now falls to the hands of the number 4 of Gianni Lutsu, as we quickly check in there with the mindset entry of Mike Pepper, our former race leader. It's going to be a good benchmark to see where does Ray Oliver come out in relation to the car on screen now here, Reese. Can the overcut do you any good here? Because Pepper's stopped, 34 seconds stationary in the box. He's coming around the final turn now. Oliver's all the way down the end of pit lane, so this could be close, but I think Pepper should have this here. Indeed, actually blazes past without too much of a fuss. I thought it might be a little closer, but alas, there is Ray Oliver in the background of the shot with Pepper through turn 1.
It looks like Oliver's even lost another position there to Kyle Ridley. Ridley moving now up into 6th overall. This has worked out very well for Kyle. Remember, he was one of the drivers to pit in roughly the second cycle. 5 laps ago is when Kyle Ridley pit, and it looks like that's worked out incredibly well for him. 35.8 seconds stop, and that's slower than both Pepper and Oliver, but looks like his on-track pace has worked out very well.
It has indeed tonight, so curious to see where he ends up. He's net Pepper 3rd place on the road effective here, but we do still have the question marks over our top 2 who came in early, so what they can do about it and what remains to be seen about that is going to be very interesting indeed. Now, continuing to watch some of these drivers here who are now circulating, and given that it's actually only our top 2 who are yet to pit, this will change things up a little, well, make things a little bit more straightforward, I should say, as we watch here Levin trying to chase down Brody Watson. That's actually important because they've switched positions, Reese, since we last checked in with them, and looks like it happened back on lap 15 down into the hairpin.
All right, well, that works out pretty well for the both of them, Watts and Levin. They're still managing to continue without too much damage. And I also want to highlight the fact that that Tyson Broad has managed to get himself up into 3rd overall, as that is a bit of a problem there for one of our cars. Looks like Ross Thalen, who had some issues going into the final corner. I think he might have picked up the gravel on the outside of the entry to the last turn there. So now he is under pressure from Franz Estebauer, who goes up the inside. Estebauer almost looking at 12th place here. They got Dean Hunt to contend with as well in this battle. Looks like Thalen was just able to defend that position from Estebauer. But Tyson Broad, who we thought was out of the running potentially for this race, has worked himself out really nicely, made up positions when they went back to the green flag, and now he finds himself in 2nd overall as Cameron Edwards comes in for his stop. Very late there for Cameron Edwards. That leaves Gianni Lutsu as the final car yet to make a stop. Looking like this might be Tyson Broad's race to lose at this stage, because he's only 7 seconds behind Lutsu.
Yes, that's going to be crucial.
For a second stop.
And I'm just having a quick look back at the pit lane for Tyson Broad. by the great fortunes of having taken a faster pair the previous lap to fix his car up, Reese. He was chasing the pack at the 35 minutes remaining mark. So he came in with the lane open. Well, the compulsory pit window open, I should say. As a quick replay for Ross Stalin through night corner and last corner. That 166 is all kinds of loose and out of control. And he's going to find the tyre bundle on the inside of last corner, unfortunately, for good measure. So critically for Tyson Broad, coming back to him now on live pitches there for a moment. He is in the clears. Oh, trouble for Cameron Edwards on pit exit there out of turn 2.
Oh.
He's locked it up and lost it there. So, trouble for the 46 that you don't want to see. He's going to gather it up and be out of the way there. But, he's been doing such good work in this race. And unfortunately, it's going to come undone there. And he's going to now slump back into position number 14. Almost 15. Yep, 15 as Michael Thompson goes up the inside for Atwood Curve.
And that's what happened there to Cameron Edwards. The cold tyres not working in his favour there on the exit of turn 2. Rear end just kicked out. Fortunately, he was able to keep it out of the wall and continue on with an undamaged car. So, Gianni Lutsu into the pits. Now, the question is for Lutsu, where does he come out? Tyson Broad is leading by quite some margin here. Mike Pepper is 36 seconds behind Lutsu, and Pepper is going to come across the line here and pass Lutsu for second. So Broad in the lead by a country mile and a half. Lutsu's going to fall down to 4th by the time he comes out of the pits. Ridley goes through to take 3rd, and it looks like Lutsu might have to try and work his way back past Ray Oliver as well.
Yeah, I would expect Lutsu can make that work without too much fuss there. As Cameron Edwards is bringing himself down onto the pit lane again.
Oh no. Well,
has he got himself, a black flag. Now, as that's got to be for the incident limit, unfortunately, for the 46, because there's nothing manually issued from race control there. So there's our first driver to come afoul of the 25 incident limit in this race tonight, which is a little unexpected because the car is mostly clean. And actually, no, he's bringing the car into his pit box. And he's going up on the jacks.
Oh.
Right, that's a bit of a head scratcher there. He's certainly got the black flag for incident limit is what it has to be, but, well, that's certainly...
Could it potentially be
point.
Speeding on pit exit?
We're reminded to double check if he sped on pit exit, and... he looks like he's okay. He looks okay, because his car was across the line before he starts, at least the nose was. So, we scratch our heads. We'll have to maybe ask Cam later on what happened there. It's a quick look at his pit exit here, and all calm and collected and well inside that white line that is the divider there. So, bit of a head scratcher there for the 46. Hopefully we can check in with him later. But back to live pitches, and now it's time to watch Gianni Lutsu see if he can chase down Ray Oliver here for 4th place. And, Tyson Broad has pulled a pit strategy master stroke here tonight. Although, given he was almost black flagged for entering a closed pit, he got very lucky there, I believe, to enter just before race control made that instruction. But I think that maybe speaks to a bit of good fortune after being caught up in that instance. A quick look at another replay here. That's the 440 of Barry Punter. Reese being passed by one of the Mindset cars, which would be... pardon me, where are you, Barry? Oh, I can't even find you there. Unfortunately, Barry's gone through the grass at Revolver and Piper, and inside of the turn there, you'd think he was going to gather it up. And it was Robert Christdale were informed. So there we go. Back to live pitches. Double lock up there for Lutsu and Oliver, but they're going to go side by side through Revolver and Piper again. Giants going to be very wary of that show in. He tries for the outside race, but he's shut down by Oliver there.
Very good entry there by Oliver into both turns. Manages to keep Lutsu behind for the time being, but Lutsu's going to try and force the issue up the inside of the left-hander. Oliver goes deep. He's going to protect the inside for the right-hand hairpin. But will Lutsu be able to pick up the power? No, doesn't quite look like it. Maybe not quite enough. Bumper to bumper through Mike Knight corner where Ross Thalen had his spin just earlier. Got to be so careful of the curb on the inside there. Looks like they've worked themselves out. Meanwhile, here's Alexander Newton, Anthony Jewell, and Dean Hunt still fighting here over 12th position. And wow, it's getting quite crossed up there between Jewell and Hunt. Had to be a few darting moves to the inside there to try and keep them behind. If they keep battling like this, they're going to bring Franz Estebauer into this battle.
They will indeed. And, well, in the meantime there, good thing to come back to the Virtual Racing School replay because Gianni Lutsu gets it done at turn 1. and not under much pressure, it would seem, for now. He's got a car's length in between him and Ray Oliver as they make their way down the back stretch. But back to this battle pack here for 12th place. Newton at the front of it all, and he's got about 2 car lengths to Jewel there, 13th. Dean Hunt hanging on there for 14th place, and well, it was a bit of a scrappy run there. Dean actually being passed by both the racecraft entries ahead of him now, as on the previous couple of laps between them. As
Broad is back in the pits.
Hello.
Our race leader is back in the pit lane.
But he's not on the jacks. That's just short. He's short-fueled the car, it seems.
Yeah, seems like it. So there we go. All done and out of the lane, still ahead of Mike Pepper by about 34 seconds. So we can turn our attention back to that battle. A little bit of a blip there for Tyson Broad, but the fight is still on for 12th.
It is indeed. And yeah, he's well, about 12 seconds clear now that the timing is readjusting itself. So yeah, a very healthy gap for him up the front of the field. So indeed, this fight for 12th continues because now Anthony Jewell is all over the back of fellow racecraft entry there, Alex Newton there. So round the last couple of turns they come, and Jewell is looking racy. If he can get that car round last corner here and set up a run, perhaps. Doesn't look like he's close enough to make something work. He's going to have to be patient and aim for some time later in the lap. You would think the backstretch and the hairpin is begging to be the prime overtaking spot for him as through first corner we come. And then up to Williams here. How close to the grass do you dare get on the right side of the circuit, Reese? And leave a good old grass trail behind as a memoir of I was here, I guess, at Okayama.
Yes. Every time drivers go through there, I always tense up a little, seeing how close they get to the grass. That was very loose there for Anthony Jewell. Not quite getting the exit that he needs in his pursuit of Alex Newton, but still catching a little bit of the slipstream on the way down to the hairpin. As, was that a lockup? Yeah, it was. There goes Alexander Newton off into the gravel. Manages to re-enter the racetrack safely. It looks like he just outbraked himself at the hairpin there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's a bit of a slam dunk case there for him. And in behind Franz Esterbauer, he will go as we're looking back here towards a couple more of the drivers circulating towards the rear of the field. Michael Thompson there in 18th. The replay for him, thanks to Virtual Racing, so it's going to come through Mike Knight corner and, yep, hop the curb with something you cannot afford to do. And tries to go around last corner, but that's a one-way trip to the tyre bundles on the outside of the turn. Gravel trap, not able to do a whole lot. And then a bit of a scruffy rejoin as Ross Thallon's down onto the lane. He has already pitted once this race. So is this another driver? He's a little bit scuffed up here, Reese, but is this another driver who's short-filled the car and now learning he's going to have to... No, he's gone up on the jacks just now, so a little confusing for that particular pit decision there as well. Pit, and there you go, also important to remember, we have passed 35 minutes in the race, so the pit window closes now, but everyone had completed their compulsory service up until that point, so no issues there I don't see, but crucially, once again, championship implications here at least, even though we are talking third round of the season implications. So as you said, still races to come here and things can change, but in the case of Gianni Luzzu, you did get back a little bit in race 1, but here in race 2 you can't afford to let anything slip when your championship leader is up front and pretty comfortably leading the race here. He needs P3 and Kyle Ridley is the man who needs to get it off right now.
Indeed. Does Lutzu go for it at turn 1? No, he doesn't. Ridley pulls it up very nicely, but Lutzu lining up the exit beautifully as well. It's still on for 6th place as well. Brody Watts trying to find his way past Clint Harvey, but it looks like Lutzu might be lining up Kyle Ridley here. Does he go up the inside at Atwood? Oh, he's going to go to the outside. Defensive there from Ridley, but Lutzu can hook this up and get a great run down onto the stretch. The back straight, sorry. He's not going to get the slipstream, but a slightly better exit around the outside might get him this position. And if he can maintain the outside through the banked hairpin, he'll be able to do it as well. Outbrakes Kyle Ridley, holds the outside. Is he going to have the inside for Revolver? Yes, he will. Gets it nicely done. Lutzu up into P3.
Yeah, not too surprising there. Once he was able to outbrake Ridley into the hairpin, that was more or less said and done. Unless Ridley pulled some magic out of the bag around the outside of Revolver and Piper. They're the double lefts off the straight as we go back to a quick virtual race. It's called replay between Brody Watts and Clint Harvey. And down into outward curve we go. It looks like that's a fairly straightforward pass for the two of them as they've made their way around the turn. But they continue scrapping down the back straight here, Reese. And it's like, yes, this is a reason to keep looking at it. So into the hairpin we go. Watts defending the newly gained position of number 5. And then Harvey full on into the rear diffuser. Looks like that's thankfully not done too much damage to either car. And that seems to have sorted itself out there at Revolver and Piper. But crucially, they're in behind them two. Ray Oliver's dropped a couple of spots.
Yep.
And is now sitting in P7 by his limits. A 5-second off-track excursion there on that last lap. Down at the Redmond hairpin. Oh, he's grabbed the grass on the brakes.
Yeah. Yep. I just saw that on my end as well. Unfortunate there for Ray Oliver. He was on for a really good result here, but this is what happened to him on the way down to Redmond. Just gets into the grass in the braking zone and whoop, round goes the car.
Yes, indeed. Now, pardon me, I'm actually just listening into the radios in the server, and there's a bit of chatter between race control and our race leader, Tyson Broad, and unfortunately, I've not heard all of it to make sense of exactly what's being discussed here. But, of course, Tyson's been keeping a nice, clean race under his bonnet here, but the only thing, obviously, that could be in question is the stopping under safety car.
We're just here, Dan, I think, pausing just to hear what's going on.
Yes, pardon me, they're trying to make sense of what's being said, but... It's everything to do with the compulsory stop and whether he's actually completed it within the window. And also because in the first race, the moment the safety car came out, the race control team closed the pit lane, but that did not happen until drivers had a chance to get down into the pits under that second safety car. So I'm wondering if there's a bit of discussion there, as all we see there in the rear view camera of our driver on board. Now, who was that we were on board with, and therefore who do we see spearing off into the grass? Barry Punter in the 440 looks to have gone for a trip as Chris Dale has come down the pits once again. Is this another driver short-filled and unable to make it home here? And yep, stays down on the jacks, and yep, he's out again. So, well, this could be interesting here for our race leader. Well, hopefully we get a chance to talk to him after the race as well and confirm what's up, because there goes 0 minutes on the clock. He took the white flag last time round. He's going to be the one to take the checkered flag here tonight, but this could be in doubt this evening. And, well, a post-race penalty, depending on what the margin is, would see him take a podium position or off the podium. But he's going to cross the line first. He's doing the wave and the headlight flash. So he takes the win here in the second of the race from Okayama race, but potentially a question mark hanging over his head. Hopefully we can confirm that for you shortly this evening.
Yeah, I hope so. Well, Mike Pepper and Gianni Lutsu are going to round out the podium. An excellent drive from Mike Pepper. Carl Ridley comes home for 4th. He'll be incredibly happy with that too. Brody Watts manages to... Oh, that's a proper drag race there between Clint Harvey and Ray Oliver to try and get themselves to the line. Goodness, what a gap that is. 200ths, nearly 300ths of a second. So Oliver was giving it his all right towards the end of the race. And it looks like Brandon Levin has run out of fuel across the line, and he's lost 8th place to Trevor Hearn. Yeah, those laps under safety car messing with the driver's fuel strategies a little bit. I think they would have had to try to do some on-the-fly calculations, and it hasn't worked out for everyone.
Clearly, indeed, which is a fast. He's going to jump on board with Brandon Levin, in the 29s. Around Mike Knight he comes, and then into last corner, and keeping it low in gear, 3rd there for him. And we're going to watch here, come to the corner. Yep, the spluttering of the RPM, and down the straight he comes. You're going to watch Trevor Hearn there, streak past before the line. Cruel above all measure there. 3/10 across the line. Brandon Levin loses position number 8 here in this second race tonight. So, yeah, cutting the margins a bit fine here, and clearly, rather than opting to take the fuel at the pit stop and be safe, gambled on making it home without any more fuel and pays the price.
Indeed. Well, here's another replay of Ray Oliver versus Clint Harvey. This is what 300ths of a second looks like. That is incredibly close between those guys fighting over 6th. Wow, they were only separated by less than a front bumper, potentially a wheel arch as well for good measure. Here it is once again coming across the line. What are we going to see here for the gap at the line? Barry waves the flag and, wow, Barney, waves the flag, and there we are. Bit less than half a car length was how 6th place was decided. So, race results then. On the road, at least, it is Tyson Broad who takes victory by 11 seconds from Mike Pepper. Gianni Lutsu rounds out the podium. An excellent recovery from him after his problems throughout the second race. Ridley and Watts will round out the top 5, and Clint Harvey just beats Ray Oliver to the line. Trevor Hearn manages to snatch 8th place from Brandon Levin, and Anthony Jewell rounds out the top 10.
11th place tonight here in the main race goes to Dean Hunt ahead of Franz Esterbauer there for 12th. Anthony Connors up to 13th after early scuffles for him as well. Then Ben Breyer, 14th place ahead of Rob Crisdale. A double disaster night for that number 8 machine, but he'll be hoping to be back in it in a couple of weeks' time when the series returns. Mike Thompson there, 16th place ahead of Ross Thelen for 17th in the last driver on the lead lap in this event tonight. Nathaniel Coburn, Alex Newton and John Lee round out our top 20 and your one lap down drivers. Actually, he might just also... No, pardon me, Cameron Edwards in 21st will also be one lap down. And then Barry Punter, unfortunately, has been a race of horrors for him. 4 laps off the lead for him. And Peter Biancucci disqualified during that event. He is marked as 26 laps short of the lead as a result. But time to get to the interviews, Reese, and we do have 2 of our podium getters here. So I think first of all we better talk to Tyson Broad as our winner across the line. Tyson, we were hearing some of the radio there during the race. Can you confirm that you are the winner as far as you're aware so far of that main race tonight?
Sorry, Dan, I missed the first part of the question.
It's all good. So yeah, just saying, we heard a little bit of the radio in game from race control between and yourself, which I believe was regarding your pit stop timing under the safety car there. Are you able to confirm if you are going to be the race winner after any post-race checks tonight, or is that still up for review?
I should be. I do know that I did pit after the 35-minute mark, so I'm 99.9% confident that I am the winner.
All right, well, hopefully we'll be able to get some confirmation about that perhaps some point down the road. But in that case, congratulations on the result after going from a great qualifying and heat race there at the start of that one in behind Gianni and keeping him honest without being perhaps too worried about the pace. And then, well, it almost looked like it had gone into a bit of a disaster moment there for you at the start of the main event tonight. But good timing on the pit window opening there. We believe, we saw that you came in at just the right time with the pit window opening. Just also a bit of questions there about the pit window being closed by the pit lane, being closed by race control for good measure. But looks like in that case, therefore, it's all worked out for you as a bit of, I guess, good fortune after being involved in that incident there on lap 2.
Yeah, well, Okayama's never really been one of my strongest tracks. It's always been a weak one for me. To qualify on pole, I was quite surprised. And then, to be honest, it was just small mistakes that cost me to win in race 1. Just running wide and all that. And then, race 2 just got squeezed on the inside. And then, I was thinking of something else. It was on the outside. I got just wiped out and sent in the fence. And luckily the safety car stayed out a lap longer because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to make my mandatory pit stop.
Yeah, that certainly saved your bacon in terms of result here tonight, because that car was well beat up after everyone came around the corner. Unfortunately, a couple of guys found you and put some more damage into that one for good measure. And certainly a 1-2, qualifying first and then a second in the first tonight means that you're in a good spot championship wise once again. Does that sort of change your focus for the upcoming races, thinking about the championship as a whole, or are you sort of taking it on a race by race basis at this stage?
It's sort of just making sure that I don't lose too much to Gianni throughout most of the races. I thought I was going to lose a heap after that crash in the main race, but luckily the safety car fell right for me, and I didn't have to take that much fuel at the end, so yeah, it worked out well for me.
Yeah, we did notice that a couple of drivers, yourself included, are coming down the pit lane there to fill up a little bit more at the end of that one. Just safety cars, many of you guys tried to make it home without getting any extra fuel on board and having to readjust there at the end?
No, it was basically impossible from that point to make it to the end on fuel, so it was basically just a quick top up before the end.
Well, there you have it. Before we let you go, Tyson, obviously next round will take us to Daytona International Speedway. Any thoughts and sort of things you're looking forward to about that circuit perhaps at this time?
Yeah, it's going to be a slipstream fest to basically try and put a good qualifying lap together, and then obviously the races is just going to be about timing your runs and making sure that you are in the right place at the right time to drive past someone past the start finish line.
That will be important indeed. Well, got a bit of time to get ready for that one, but before we let you go here tonight, Tyson, who you want to thank, partners and sponsors, and who helped you get it done tonight?
Mainly DPR Racing. It's been a good week and a half being on board with them now. And also DPR sponsors, Simrex.com, Southwell Lifts and Hoist, Ben Max Mechanical, Phoenix Smokers, and MP Designs. And also the series organizers and series sponsors for putting on a great series, and all you folks that make the broadcast possible.
Thank you very much, Tyson. Your main race winner and also your round winner after P2 in the sprint earlier tonight there. So, got one more person to have a quick chat to, Reese. It's our third place getter in the main event and our winner of the sprint. I'll hand over to you to speak to Gianni Lutsu.
Indeed, we just had another view of that very intense finish for P6 between Clint Harvey and Ray Oliver. Such a close finish. Well, Gianni, for you, a first and a third, well, seems like a really good result on paper, but it doesn't tell the full story of your night. Things could have gone incredibly wrong for you in race 2. How did you approach it? How did you recover?
Yeah, 100%, Reese. Thank you. It was a good night, but not the best sort of night that we could have had. Obviously, race 1 really well. We qualified on third, and then we were able to we had quite good pace, so we were able to drive it up to first and took out that one by a little bit of a margin. And then the second one overall we really haven't had a lot of luck in the features, so I was looking to bounce back and try and get a good one today. We got a really good start, to be honest with you. Got a bit caught up on the left side on the actual green flag, so that was a bit unfortunate. But we were driving through, and then unfortunately got tagged up with P2B, and that sort of spun us around. And then the next corner there was that big pile up, and then there was sort of there was the safety car obviously, and then then obviously everybody boxed. That sort of took advantage of that 5-minute mark, and then obviously they were the ones to get ahead, but somehow we were able to finish third. And actually I didn't have any sound that entire race, so I couldn't hear the car, couldn't hear my spotter, couldn't hear the voice chat or anything. So I was just running off the shift lights, and that was about it. So I think we did okay with what we had.
Yeah, right. Oh, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. That's quite the achievement, actually. Any sim racer knows how difficult it is to run without those sensory inputs that you don't depend as much on in real life. Well, either way, you come home with a podium and a win tonight, which should certainly help you in your pursuit of Tyson Broad. And it seemed like you had the edge on him in pace in race 1, so that sets things up really well for the rest of the season.
Yeah, 100%. We had quite a good pace tonight. Actually, last season we did pretty well here as well. So coming in tonight, I was feeling pretty confident about it, and we showed our pace in race 1 and obviously in race 2 as well. But we're still trailing a little bit more than I would have really wanted. But we just got to keep trying to get the best results we can for Team Racecraft, and we'll see where we end up. But obviously first and the third still good for obviously the conditions and what happened to us in the second race there. So I think it's the best we really could have asked for in that one.
Indeed, a profitable night for you regardless of the issues that you faced, Gianni. Anyone you'd like to thank or give a shout out to before we let you go?
Yeah, obviously, big thanks to Southern Cross Esports and Cam and all the guys for holding this one, and obviously you guys for holding the live stream and all that. Wouldn't be able to, show this off to everybody on YouTube and all that without you guys. So tops to you, and obviously big thanks to Johnny from Racecraft for sponsoring me in this series, and all the guys, Anthony and Alex, that were racing with me tonight. For all their support, helping me in that race with hearing what was going on. But yeah, no, big thanks to Racecraft as always, and thanks for their ever-going support with my my sim racing, and especially for getting me a new rig a few weeks ago. That's yeah, definitely given me a few more tenths. So yeah, looking forward to next round. It should be pretty exciting at Oran Park, I believe it is. So yeah, we'll try to continue the form through there.
Going to have to wait another 3 weeks for Oran Park, Johnny. We're going to Daytona next, but certainly that is a track that should provide some really good racing. So hopefully we'll get another chance to speak to you after that. That's Gianni Lutzu finishing on the podium in both races. Of course, yes, we are going to Daytona for the next round, and we are going to be racing at night. Oh, it's going to be a tough one for the drivers. They do have plenty of lighting around the racetrack, but there's going to be some issues there with the really, really cold track in the Florida nights. You'll be able to catch that on the 15th of June at 8:30 Australian Eastern, 6:30 Australian Western. Well, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight's coverage of the Southern Cross Esports Championship Series. Another thanks to our series sponsors, V8 Drive Day Perth, West Australian Automotive Equipment, Word of Mouth Signs, V-Race Experience, Modem Simulation, and of course 24/7 Sim Services handling race control tonight. I'm Reese Gardner. It was Dan Yeaman alongside me in the commentary box and Jake Kennedy on production. From all of us here at SimSpeed TV, bye for now, but not forever. We'll see you at Daytona.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got tracks and he's going around the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys I want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go. Oh no! That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?